Hello, and welcome to the Social Venture Partners of Sacramento webinar to give you an overview of the SVP Fast Pitch process. This webinar recording is geared towards nonprofits in the Sacramento region who are interested in participating and applying for the SVP Fast Pitch 2018 process. Our webinar goals today, one is for you to learn a little bit more about Social Venture Partners overall. We'll, of course, learn about the SVP Fast Pitch program and what it takes to get the most out of the experience. We'll discuss the application and key dates, which are also available on the Sacramento Region Community Foundation website, linked to in the box below. I'll also provide contact info so we can answer any additional questions you may have. I highly recommend you get in touch no later than the middle of September. If you do have additional questions, the application closes for nonprofits on October 6th at 5 p.m. So to make sure there's enough time to schedule a phone call if you need it, please reach out no later than mid-September. And overall, we want to find out today if Fast Pitch is a good fit for you. So I'll be providing a lot of information, and then we'll leave it to you to make the decision whether or not to apply this year. So Social Venture Partners is a global organization. We're in 40 cities with more than 3,200 philanthropists worldwide. We're the world's largest network of engaged donors. What that means is we pair monetary investments with investments of time, so strategic volunteer time. And those two together, we believe, is the magic formula to improving some of the most impactful nonprofits in the region and around the world. All of our money is sourced locally and spent locally, despite the fact that we're a global organization. So we at SVP Sacramento fund and support organizations in the 6-county Sacramento region. So as I mentioned, our magic equation is unrestricted funding plus capacity building support equals impactful nonprofits growing to serve more at a higher quality. We were founded in 2008. And we have an exclusive focus on improving area education. Now for Fast Pitch, we do take a slightly different route with this. So a portion of your programming has to have an educational component, but as long as you have an educational component to your programming, you're eligible. So it's not necessarily relegated to just K through 12 education for Fast Pitch. We've invested over $1.2 million since 2008 in the nonprofit world. And we call our nonprofits investees versus grantees. That's because we are investing more than just money, but also time with the nonprofits we support. So as I mentioned, our funding model is typically to invest with nonprofits and also provide capacity building support. When we invest with a nonprofit through our traditional model of investment, we invest for 3 to 5 years, and it's all unrestricted funding. Now for Fast Pitch, that is a little bit different. So Fast Pitch is a one-time investment, and that's for a social return, not a financial return, of course. But for our traditional model, we're funding for multiple years. So we have 3 programs. So the first I was mentioning is our long-term capacity building investments to a portfolio of educationally focused nonprofits. That's the bulk of what we do. Then we have SVP Fast Pitch, which is a nonprofit pitch program aimed at building your fundraising capacity and also providing you with many connections in the Sacramento region to further your goals as an organization. And then we also have SVP Kids, which is a philanthropic engagement opportunity and grant-making process for youth ages 7 through 17. So what is Fast Pitch exactly? Fast Pitch is a competitive process. We bring in 20 nonprofits that are selected as semifinalists, and 10 of those will go on to present their 3-minute pitch at our final Fast Pitch event. In between being selected and the final event, there are 3 months of training, coaching, and mentoring of whichever leader from your organization is our main participant. This process has a focus on differentiation and impact. So what are you doing differently that allows you to do it better than quote-unquote competitors in your space? Obviously, we're nonprofits, so we're collaborative, but what are you doing that gives you an edge? Do you have a different system of delivery of your services? Are you efficient because of the way you use volunteers? Do you partner and collaborate in a way that decreases your costs and increases your time spent on the ground? So what differentiates you from others in your area? And then your impact. We are ideally looking for quantitative measures of your impact, but if you do need to apply with qualitative data, also make sure to look at the frame of why you're serving the problem you're serving or why you're working to solve it. So if you do not have your own data, you must at the very least have landscape data on why the problem you're looking to impact is so important. And that's explained in the application itself. So your eligibility to apply. So again, you have to have an educational component to your programming. You may know of some of our past nonprofit participants. They're not all what you would consider a typical education program. So some examples of what we mean when we say an educational component. For instance, B Street Theater competed in our 2015 Fast Pitch event. B Street Theater is primarily a theater, not an educational program, but they have plenty of educational theater programs for youth, and they travel around the state providing that. And so that educational program for youth was what allowed them to apply. So you have to have something like that within your area of service. And typically we find about 85% of nonprofits, of all nonprofits, would qualify with one or more of their programs being educational. So if you're not sure, you can feel free to follow up with the email provided at the end of this webinar, but most likely there is an educational component to your programming. The other piece of eligibility is you must reside or serve in one of the 6 counties that we work with. So Yolo, Yuba, Sacramento, El Dorado, Sutter, or Placer. And as long as you reside or serve in one of those 6 counties and have an educational component to your programming, you are good to go. The final product at the end of Fast Pitch. So you'll be going through group pitch sessions, working with coaches, honing your 3-minute pitch. And your final product is a refined 3-minute elevator pitch. In addition, you should walk away with many relationships you didn't have before, as well as some professional video content, yours to use as you wish. And our finalists will also receive professional photos with a local and well-known photographer. So no cost to apply or participate. And you should come out of this with something very usable for grants, for speaking opportunities, or for teaching to your board or staff to make sure everyone's message is on the same page. So elements of Fast Pitch, and I started to touch on these a little bit. We have pitch and data workshops that happen in December. These get you set up for success before you ever have to get on the stage and start pitching. So we'll take you through how to effectively use data in a pitch and what kind of data you can use. So whether you have your own quantitative data, which is preferred, or whether you have landscape data about the area or the problem you're impacting, we're going to walk you through how you use that data. And then we have a pitch crafting workshop, which also happens in December. So after you have an idea how to use the data, we'll bring in expert Justin Lokeets from Business Models Inc. out of San Francisco, and he will lead the group through a pitch crafting workshop around how to effectively build your story in a compelling manner. Then from January to February, we have group coaching. So there are 3 sessions of group coaching from January to February. They're just about every 2 weeks. So you have 2-week breaks in between. And those group coaching sessions run from 5 to 9 p.m. They will all be held at the University of Pacific Sacramento campus, which is in the Oak Park area right off of the 50. And those are 4 hours each. So pretty intensive use of time, but as you'll see, a lot of fun. And then also the 2-on-1 coaching, which happens in between each session. So we have 40 coaches who are part of the process. 2 coaches will be assigned to your team. So the nonprofit pitch performer and the 2 coaches make up a team. Your team will get together for at least an hour in between each group coaching session, and you'll have access to a series of tools to look back on and decide how to best approach honing your pitch before the next session. So you'll have a video of your pitch from the previous session. You'll have access to your comparative scores. So we never give you raw scores, but you'll see where you fell in the field, whether you were in the top, middle, or bottom third of the field with your score. And then you'll also get coach note cards and nonprofit note cards. So each of you pitch performers and each of the coaches will have a feedback card to fill out at every session. You'll fill that out for every single nonprofit pitch, turn that in, and then at the end of the night, your nonprofit presenter gets all of those feedback forms. So 60 feedback forms from the nonprofits and the coaches, which you can review and then work in to honing your pitch. And this is actually, it sounds daunting, but think of it this way, funders won't always tell you why they didn't fund you. They just say yes or no. So this is an excellent opportunity to really hear that insider information. A majority of our coaches are qualified independent donors, so which to us means they could write a check of $1,000 or more. So think of it as, this is your perfect test kitchen for whether or not something's going to land, whether or not a piece of data makes sense to an audience. So really an incredible opportunity to get feedback on something you wouldn't always get feedback on. And then we have our final event, which is SVP Fast Pitch, which is likely going to happen March 8th of 2018. We will not know the final date. We will not be able to confirm that date until 60 days out from March 8th because of the regulations around the Golden One Center where it will be held, but likely March 8th. And at that event, 10 of the 20 semifinalists will be selected as finalists by coach vote. And those finalists will go on to pitch for over $30,000 in funding and in-kind support. So why participate? Well, let's take a look at some of our 2015 to 2017 results. So 2018 will be our 4th year running this process. We've grown significantly over the years. So our 2017 pitch event had over 750 attendees. We were at Golden One Center, where we will be again today. So first reason why participate, well, you get a chance to get center court on stage at Golden One Center and hopefully pitch to hundreds of local engaged Sacramentans who have an interest in supporting the nonprofit community. So great way to get your message out, whether your ask is financial or for skilled volunteers or for office space, could there be someone in that crowd who could fill your need? So obviously, why participate? Spread the word about the good work you're doing. Expand your network, so both nonprofit and prospective funders. So as I mentioned, most of the coaches are qualified individual donors. The nonprofits in the room are going to be high-quality individuals who are really focused on improving themselves and improving the community. So you'll get to know 19 other nonprofit leaders and teams who've done incredible work. We've heard of quite a few nonprofit collaborations coming out of this process because by the end of it, you know each other so well, you know the ins and outs of each other's organization, and you're ready to hit the ground running with exciting collaborative efforts. You can spread the word about what you do, as I already mentioned, and you can package your message in a succinct and powerful way. One of my favorite examples of this is Rabbi David Azine of Fresher Sacramento, who participated in our 2017 event. His pitch went through many iterations, and as he has stated, it really helped him understand the core of what his organization was doing and where they were heading, just having to sit down and spend time with this pitch. So really powerful for them. He did not go on to win any of our awards at Fast Pitch, but he did have a donor step up and fund his $50,000 ask that night. So that's an incredible outcome of Fast Pitch. And then another great example, Julie Rotan of Stanford Settlement participated in 2016. She was pretty shy getting up on stage. It's a very overwhelming process to get up there and be in front of, 60 peers, and then at the final event, hundreds of attendees. And she became so much more confident through this process. She actually went on to pitch for a 100 Women Who Care group, and she ended up winning over $19,000 because she was more confident in her pitch, and she has said herself she does not think she could have done that without this process. So great opportunity to build your confidence on stage or to hone your message. potential great opportunity to reach funders and nonprofit collaborators. I will say we do not recommend you participate in this just for the immediate financial return. Not all participants receive funding at the end of this process. And so if the only reason you're doing it is because you'd like a few extra unrestricted dollars, because yes, all of our award money is unrestricted, really think of if there's another reason you want to be part of this, because frankly, for the small amount of money you could win, it's not worth the time if you're just in it for the money. Why else participate? Well, you can see it's a really fun group of people. So up here in the top left is our participants from the 2017 process. Down on the floor of Golden One Center, this is all the coaches, all the nonprofits, really incredible, dynamic individuals. Some of the coaches are folks that you might spend months trying to get a meeting with, and now you're in a room with a reason to talk to them. So the coaches are a fabulous add-on for this process, but also the nonprofit lead. So just the energy of this process. Why else? Well, you could win a check. So Simeon Gant from Green Tech was our 2015 one of our winners. And, it's not bad to win money. As I said, that shouldn't be your only reason for participating. But we do have some incredible follow-on funding success stories. So we, while we have given out over $100,000 in funding and in-kind support over 3 years through this process, the more incredible number is that we've had over $500,000 come in follow-on funding as a direct result of the Fast Pitch process. So that means a donor in the room heard you and invited you in for a grant, or someone you met through the process, some coach ended up writing you a check. So that follow-on funding is a really incredible part of this process, but it's not necessarily immediate. So most of those results happen 6 to 12 months out from the process. So again, if you're doing this process because you need money in the short term, it's not necessarily a fit. If you're doing it with the plan of building a fundraising machine, maybe a better reason right there. And then why else? I mean, you have the chance to be crowned first place of Fast Pitch 2018 on stage at Golden One Center with the lights and the crowd and the excitement. And so that could be you. Bottom middle, April Javist, the Sacramento Public Library Foundation's 2017 winner for SVP Fast Pitch, with hosts myself, Bree Cahill, and announcer for the Kings, Scott Moak. So considerations. There are some reasons, some things you need to think about before you apply for this. So are you dedicated and willing to spend 50 plus hours on this process from December to March? Now I will say the structured portion of this process is about 25 hours. So if you're just looking at the sessions you have to commit to and the in-between coaching, that's about 25 hours. But there's time beyond that. There's time practicing your pitch, memorizing your pitch. One I heard a lot in Fast Pitch debriefs this year from the nonprofit presenters was, well, for the 2 months, January and February, every time I was driving in my car, I wasn't listening to the radio. I was just saying my pitch over and over and over again. And another thing I heard a lot this year in the debrief meetings were individuals saying, you said how many hours it was going to take, and I just didn't believe you. I just didn't think it would take that long for me. So I'm here to tell you that no matter how smart or efficient or good you are already at pitching, it's going to be at least 50 hours. Most of our finalists, the ones who go to the final pitch stage, reported at least 70 hours. And that's spent on a lot on memorization and a lot on practicing and changing little words within the pitch. So, keep in mind it's going to be a significant lift of time. Now, granted, almost everyone who's ever been through Fast Pitch still uses portions of their pitch when they're out and about, has it memorized, so at a moment's notice, they will for the rest of their lives be able to recite this pitch. So there's some benefits to that initial high outlay. But if you, say, have an event mid-March that you're going to be mad dashing around from January to March getting ready for, this could be tough. Also, are you going to be receptive to group and mentor feedback? Because this process is really only powerful if you're receptive to feedback. Now, that doesn't mean you have to take everyone's feedback. There are going to be coaches who give one-off comments or who just totally don't understand your mission and say something that doesn't make sense for you. But overall, everyone's spending their time on this because they care and because they want to make your pitch better. So if it's really hard for you to be open to feedback, consider if you're going to be receptive through this process, or if you're going to be able to let that guard down and hear what folks are saying. And in that same vein, are you ready and eager to grow? Because this will certainly push you to grow as a leader and as a pitcher for your organization. And are you able to put your best foot forward? So again, this goes back to a little bit just time of year. This is always likely to always be hosted in March. So that January and February months are really where the bulk of your work is going to take place. Do you have time in those 2 months to devote to put your best foot forward? And then do you have plans to harness the power beyond this event? So are you going to be reaching out to coaches to connect with them and see if they can introduce you to anyone or fund you themselves? Will you be using your pitch to train your staff or your board on a consistent message? Will you be the main pitch performer out in the community? Will you be setting up additional speaking opportunities or using that new pitch to really go further? Now, this, of course, is just a consideration. We have had organizations that, it's pretty rare, but we have had organizations that just do their pitch and it doesn't get used again. The organizations that really see the follow-on funding and really see a change in their ability to fundraise and in their leadership ability are the ones who have a plan for after Fast Pitch. How are you going to use this and apply it to increase your fundraising outcomes? So is Fast Pitch for you? This may not be the time for you if your organization is in crisis. If you rely on your personality and charisma, but you aren't ready for input. If you're okay with the status quo, because your pitch will change from what you think it will be. If you have no plans to use the process tools after the process is over, or if your board is not supportive of you participating in the process, or expresses strong opposition to the required input of time. One thing we have added this year is a disclaimer at the top of our application. So if you are someone whose board or executive director is asking you to look into this, just make sure they understand the time commitment required for you to participate, and make sure they're supportive of it and they're either taking some stuff off of your plate or making other accommodations to make this workable, because again, it's a huge time commitment. Now, that being said, we've had 46 nonprofits go through the process, and 45 of those said they would absolutely participate all over again. So very high rate, and these are interviews that happen after the process when they have nothing to lose or gain other than being candid helps us in our evaluation. So 45 out of 46 would do it all over again, and so I hope you'll see there are more benefits. The benefits far outweigh the costs, but I don't want to tell you it's easy and it's going to be fast when it's not. So you got to be ready for that time commitment. Application and key dates. So you will apply on the Sacramento Region Community Foundation website. There's a link in the information section of this webinar, and you likely linked to this webinar from from the application itself. So you'll go to sacramentoregioncommunityfoundation.org. Under their grants for nonprofits, you will click on the application and it will take you to an external site, Blitzen or Decision.io, and you'll use that to fill out the application and submit it. You should be able to save your application partway through in the system. But this application is due by Friday, October 6th at 5 p.m. So please make sure you're getting it done before then, because I tend to get a lot of tech support questions the day it's due, and we have had people miss the deadline because of that. So ideally, you'd have this in late September so that if you had any questions, you'd have time to reach out. The mandatory session dates are listed here. They're also in the application. The couple things I want to point out. In the February sessions down towards the bottom, You can see they have question marks for the date. Those dates should be filled in on your online application, but at the time of recording the webinar to be posted, we did not know the final dates. And then you'll also see that one right below the 1st February date is actually optional. So we hope you'll attend the Best Practices in Marketing presented by the Sacramento Ad Club in collaboration with SVP Fast Pitch, but it does not count against you if you do not attend. And then obviously the Thursday, March 8th date at Golden One Center could change if we are booted because of a concert. So questions. If you have additional questions, please email admin@svpsacramento.org. You should get a response within 48 hours. But if you're looking to schedule a phone call for more than one question you have, the sooner you can send that email, the better, so that you can get on the calendar. So our webinar goals today. So hopefully you learned a little bit about Social Venture Partners of Sacramento. Learned a little bit about SVP Fast Pitch and what it takes to get the most out of the experience. We discussed the application and key dates. And then you've been provided with contact info in case you have any additional questions to send remotely. Overall, I hope that you've listened to this and that it's gotten you excited about the potential of Fast Pitch, maybe a little nervous and a little excited. We look forward to reading your applications. This is one of my personal favorite things that we do with SVP, and I hope you might have the chance to talk to one of our past Fast Pitch nonprofits and hear a little bit more about their experience. And with that, thank you for participating and joining us today. And hopefully we'll see your application soon.